Hi, I'm Emily Chang, anchor and executive producer of Bloomberg Technology and author of Brotopia. Welcome to the Chiconomics series, honoring women who are blazing trails as founders and CEOs. Today, I'm joined by Sarah McNulty, president and founder of the Kinetics Group, which offers healthcare delivery services and marketing. Sarah, thank you for joining us. It's great to be here with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So the story of how you got into pharma marketing is kind of epic, and I would love for you to share it with us. How did you end up on this path?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I mean, I don't think anybody grows up dreaming to be a pharmaceutical marketer. And I studied business, and I had big ideas of living in New York City and working for a slick Madison Avenue agency, but those jobs were few and far between, and they paid like nothing. So I was out one night with some friends and actually met a friend of a friend at a bar and wrote my name and number on a napkin, and lo and behold, I got my first job working on the very sexy Imodium AD account.
Who knew Imodium AD? I mean, how did that end up opening so many doors?
Well, it was funny. I was like, okay, you'll do anything, you'll take anything. But then once I got there, I actually started to appreciate the approach of marketing the brand. And it actually was a whole franchise of brands, including Pediacare and Tylenol and some others. And I started to think, there really is an opportunity to provide value here rather than helping somebody decide, if one peanut butter is crunchier or chunkier than the other one, really helping people make an informed healthcare decision. Mm-hmm. And so, that really hit home for me. And so I decided to stay along that path and had wonderful opportunities.
It's one thing to think about taking a chance. It's another thing to actually take that chance. So, I mean, was there fear? Was there apprehension? What was the biggest obstacle you had to overcome?
I mean, it was all those things. It was scary. Yeah. It was scary. I mean, I was fortunate that I was in a dual income family. So, my husband had an income coming in. So financially, it was obviously a cut not having a regular salary, but I was fortunate not to be on my own. But, it took me a while to build the confidence to make decisions that, there wasn't anybody telling me what to do, that I was in charge. And, there were definitely some bumps along the way with that.
Now, there are so many women out there who think they can't start their own company and have a family and, have a career at the same time. How did you do it?
Yeah, so I mean, that is a big driver of mine even until this day. There's no reason why a working parent can't have it all. I mean, it's not easy. It's a balance no matter what your choices are, but there's no reason you can't have a career where you can thrive and still be an engaged parent. So for me, working from home made a huge difference. And we were lucky, we had babysitters and a variety of help. But to be able to, pop over to a school concert or to, bring somebody to school or do the carpool and hear that chitter chatter where you pick up so much in the background made a huge difference for me in being able to have a work-family balance. So
you made an interesting point there, working from home. So you were working from home from the very early days, and that was actually built into the culture of your company. When the pandemic happened, not only were people working from home, they were working from home with their kids on their lap, having to school their children. Was that still a challenge, or were you able, and was the company able to navigate that smoothly because you had these systems and this infrastructure in place?
I mean, certainly I felt like it was a much smoother ride for us than it was for many other people. I mean, I feel funny saying this. 2020 was our best year ever. Embarrassing that during a pandemic, but it was a challenge. So for people who were used to working from home, now they had their kids at home, and then maybe their spouse was also working from home. So it did become a balance. The good news was everybody was in that situation. Our clients were in that situation. So whereas before, having somebody, run behind you during a conference call or, the dog barking, you would have been mortified. Now everybody was doing it. I also think a thing that really helped, across the board is the switch flipped with using technology. I mean, the idea of Zoom has been around and Zoom itself has been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. But now suddenly, we really started to leverage that. In fact, a woman in my office mentioned it recently. She works in North Carolina, and she's been with us for 15 years. And she said, I feel more connected to people now than I ever did, because we knew nobody was together, so we made such a point of having people together. You know, we had Zoom cocktail hours like everybody did, and games and coffees in the morning. I mean, I think the personal element really improved. It was a silver lining for us, customers.
You also started sending out some COVID insight reports, I believe, which augmented the work that you were already doing. Tell us about those.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, there was information coming from everywhere, right? And we said, you know, let's take advantage of this network that we have. And, you know, part of it was a little self-serving. We wanted to learn on our own. But we put together a group and a network of folks that we would reach out to regularly and ask them, you know, how is this, you know, how is COVID impacting you? How do you imagine you're going to start dealing with pharma in the future? And we started packaging these insights initially just for ourselves, and then we did it in a way that we shared with our customers. But the trick was, you know, there were insights coming, you know, in every direction. You couldn't avoid insights. And we did it in just a very clean and simple and concise way. It was one PowerPoint slide with a couple highlights, and sometimes we'd, you know, have a follow-up phone call.
Now, women are underrepresented among entrepreneurs today. They were even more underrepresented among entrepreneurs when you started your company. How much do you think being a woman entrepreneur has changed in the last 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly evolved in a good way, but it's slow, right? It's a long, slow ride. I think that while there are more women now who are entrepreneurs, you know, it's certainly not as many as there should be, but I do think while there may be fewer women who are still in the room, I do think the woman now has a voice in a way that she didn't before. You know, people are deferring to the woman who's in the room, the woman who's the leader, whereas before it was, you know, she might have been there, but she was, you know, in the back row.
So talk to us about some of the challenges you navigated yourself as a woman entrepreneur, dealing in a business world where mostly men had the power.
Yeah, I mean, I remember going to one meeting and like nobody knew where the ladies' room was. I mean, there are basic things like that. No, nobody ever thought of something like that. You know, you come at it from a different way, and I come at it, and I think what's in part made our company successful is from the people point of view. You know, people are our product. We're a communication company. The people are our product. So, you know, I do come at it from the voice of, you know, not the black and white financial model, but the surround sound about the culture and the person and the work that's involved in doing something. You know, you could be in a meeting and somebody will say, oh, yeah, we'll do it tomorrow. And I'm like, well, how are we going to do it tomorrow? Because it's going to take all these people and they can't work around the clock and you're going to get a crappy product. So
you have 3 children, right? How did you do it? You know, I don't know if you believe in the term work-family balance, if such a thing exists. Some people say, you know, the mix of work and family. How did you navigate that? I mean, as a business owner and an
It's a
entrepreneur.
lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, you know, there were a lot of financial risks. There were a lot of, you know, there was a lot of travel. There was a lot of long nights. You know, just trying to stay in touch. You know, I have a very good, open, I think I have a good relationship with my kids. Very communicative. You know, we touch base all the time. I really make a point of, you know, no matter where I am, just knowing when they come home from school, checking in, you know, texting them in the morning if I'm not there to say have a good day. I think it's not always the big things. I think it's the little steps along the way that make a difference. And, you know, there's more on you for a woman.
You also battled breast cancer. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those things, you know, you think you're going in for a routine exam, you know, until you're sitting there and you're like, it's not. You know, I never had a lump. I never had any symptoms. I went in for my annual exam that I almost canceled because I had a meeting coming up and I said, oh, let me just go. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're sitting there and it started to unravel that, you know, they were calling people in and you were there longer. You know, fortunately, I was, you know, being in healthcare, I was called a couple people once I started to get this diagnosis and felt very comfortable with the path that I was on in terms of, you know, I went to Sloan Kettering. I had a vasectomy. I had reconstructive surgery. I had chemotherapy, like all the things you never dreamed that you were going to have.
What was your biggest fear?
My biggest fear was telling my children.
How did you do that?
I actually talked to a social worker, and Sloan Kettering suggested this, and I was like, I don't need a social worker, I'm fine. But I'm glad that I did, because they explained to me that your kids care about 3 things. The 3 C's. Can I catch it? If you have this, does that mean that I have it? And I was fortunate to have done genetic testing and found out that that was not the case. Did I cause it? Did I cause a lot of stress in the world, and that's what made you sick? And then the third thing is care. Who's going to care for me? Like, how will this impact me? And I will say telling them through that lens so they would know, they're safe, they're okay, and then ultimately their world are going to change, but not going to, they can still do all the things they want to do. They loved the meal train. They loved when the dinners came in. They were sad when that ended.
So physically and emotionally, how did you get through it and keep your business running and keep your house running?
Yeah, I mean,
keep raising your children, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot. It was horrible. It was hard. I'm not going to lie. I mean, there were days I was like, I'm never going to be able to stand up straight again. Like, there was I had all kinds of surgeries. It was scary, but I was very, I have a fantastic team, and this is one of the things I think I learned over the years is to let go and to delegate, which I mean, I like to talk. I'm a control person. I want to be that person, but I started to realize one of the most important things you have to think about is how important it is to listen, and good ideas come from everywhere. So at that point, I had really built such an incredible team. There's an executive team of 7 of us, and so I really felt that, I needed to take this time off, that things were in good hands, and I would check in with them every now and then, but it was a fortunate place in my career to have a horrible personal thing happen.
How did it change you as a business leader?
It made me think about the work that we did. And there's been assignments, honestly, that we've turned down now because, I think to myself, we don't need to be involved with this type of person. We don't need to work in this sort of environment. And I think financially, that plays into it too, that we're in a place where I have the luxury of doing that. But again, it's really the same theme. The thread that runs across both is just being more thoughtful about who you're spending your time with and how you're spending your time and what you're looking to get out of it.
So what advice do you have for women today who, think, I can't do this, right? And there probably, I'm sure there were many times where I thought, I can't do this,
absolutely.
right? How do you overcome that? And how do you, tell yourself that you can or that they can?
I mean, so that's like a layered, a layered thing there, right? So it's okay that it's hard. It's okay to fail. I think, the biggest thing is to just, believe in yourself. And it's okay that you don't, you don't know anything, like they say, fake it till you make it. I think you just have to stick to your values and be comfortable with who you are and know that might not resonate with everybody. But I think as long as you have that running through it. In fact, as a company, we just did an exercise about 18 months ago, kind of crystallizing our values because, our culture is so important. I said, this can't just come, I can't be like, okay, here are our values. It had to come from the staff. And so we came up with, 5 anchoring principles in that we are, we're genuine, we're as advertised, we're trusted, we're humble. We're not looking in it for the credit. We're just in it to do a good job. We're versatile. When you're in a service business, you have to be nimble and inclusive, which I think is, incredibly important. Again, good ideas come from everywhere. Talent comes from all different places.
Is there anything, when you look back all the way to the beginning, is there anything that you would have done differently?
There's probably a million things. I would have slept more. What I think I would have done differently is I would have hired people, been more quick to bring in support instead of feeling that I had to do it all myself. I think that's, a role a woman traditionally might fall in, that they feel like they have to have the burden of everything. And I would say that was both at home and at work. Once I started to let go of that and realize that there's other people that are just as talented and just as caring and just as wise who can do things. Had I done that earlier, I think I actually might have been more personally fulfilled out of my early years of work.
You have kids in high school and college, I believe. What advice would you give to your high school self?
Oh, I mean, my high school self, especially seeing my daughter now in high school, enjoy where you are. When you're young in particular, and even early in your career, you're so anxious for that next level, for that next step. But where you are there's so many great things about it. So if you can just take a breath and enjoy where you are, I think that makes the whole ride better in the long run.
And what if you're trying to make the decision about being an entrepreneur or not? I mean, do you think everyone has what it takes to be an entrepreneur? How do you know if you have what it takes, and what are those qualities? Yeah,
I mean, so it's not for everyone. Like I say that all the time. In my office, it's not for everyone. We actually have what I describe as a very entrepreneurial environment. You know, tenure is not a prerequisite for being promoted. You know, if you see something, say something. You know, we have people that have been, you know, just 2 years out of college, very, very talented, real go-getters. They say they want to be involved in something. Okay, take it on. Let's see what you can do. I mean, my view is, and it's easy for me to say because I'm, you know, sort of at the other end, but if there is something you're really passionate about, give it a try. You can always go back and get a job for the most part. But give it a try. I think, you know, just taking a chance, even if it's a small chance, you know, I feel like you'll feel better about yourself. Even if it didn't go your way, you learned something about it that's going to help you in the next stage.
And how do you think healthcare will be changed as a result of COVID? I mean, obviously, you know, many of us are more, there's telemedicine, you know,
Right.
So much in the healthcare industry is changing, and the healthcare industry is an industry that many say hadn't been touched by technology as much as it should have been. Do you see that happening now? And how does the healthcare industry look different post-pandemic?
Yeah, I think the use of technology is, like in so many industries, is really great for healthcare right now. Telemedicine, as you mentioned, is a great example of that. Yeah, I think people are going to be much more thoughtful about having to actually go into the hospital, having to go into the doctor's office. Also, the use of data. I think there's so much more that can be used with data, with marrying, you know, geographically, patient populations, pairing them with experts. You know, you shouldn't have to, you know, drive to the Cleveland Clinic from Michigan, you know, if you want a specialist. I think there's a lot with data that can make a very big difference in terms of access to health care. And
when you look back on what you've accomplished so far, what are you most proud of?
Oh, geez. I mean, certainly my 3 children. You know, I'm proud that people come to work and with a smile. I have to say it's an environment that, you know, you rarely hear a crossword. And in fact, just yesterday, somebody mentioned to me, we had our year-end staff Zoom. We have decided not to have a holiday party, but we are trying to get together everybody live in January. We figured we'd wait through the holidays and see how that goes. And there's a woman that we just hired, and she said, I didn't know workplace could be like this. I didn't know that people could be so friendly and so appreciative when you're just doing your job. So, I mean, I don't think there's anything like that. I would say I'm very proud of that.
I think that's something that you should definitely be proud of, in addition to your children, of course. Sarah, it's wonderful to be here with you. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
I learned a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. So nice talking with you.